buddy. Good to see you.
Yeah, probably get attacked and blooded here shortly. He's in a mood. See that?
Crazy cat. We're sitting down here with the crazy cat by the wood stove. Feels really good, and we're going to answer some of the questions that you ask us. And there were so many, we'll have to do another video. So if you have more questions, you could add them to the comments of this video, but we're going to answer some of them today. And one of them we'll start with is about the wood stove, is the fan there, that little fan. It's just a little metal fan, and the heat of the fire makes it turn. So, does that explain it good?
It's just a heat-activated fan.
Yeah.
When the heat, it's got a little heat-activated motor, and then when it gets hot, I don't know if it's magnetized. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's when it gets hot, it makes the motor turn, which turns the fan, and it just moves a little air. It ain't like it blows, all over the whole room, but it just blows, the immediate area around the stove and just helps move some of the, super hot air off the top of the stove and, kind of project it outward just a little bit.
It probably would work better if you were in a more enclosed place, but this basement's so big and open that it doesn't do much down here, but it is neat to see it start spinning on its own. It's kind of neat. And another question is, a lot of people have said something about that was making a noise, the fan was. It's silent, but what you can hear, along with the fire burning, hear a lot of popping this morning, but is that pan of water. When it gets lower, then you can hear it boiling, literally, I guess is what it's doing, simmering along.
Yeah, it's just simmering.
You can hear hear that. So and then you pour water in it and the sound goes away. So that was where someone was worried, I think, about the fan or the flue, that it was making a noise. It was actually just the water in the old pot there. And we just do that to try to put moisture back into the air, because the wood heat's wonderful, but it's a really dry heat. Does that cover it?
Yeah.
Okay, our first question, has Matt ever been to vocational school?
Yes, sort of. I went to welding school. I mean, you was dating then,
Yeah, we was dating.
Yeah, I went to welding school and I thought I was going to be a welder.
You were for a little while.
Yeah, I got a job doing it, in a construction job doing it, and kind of enjoyed it. But, me and her, was I doing that while we met, or did I start that after?
After we met, yeah.
Anyway, I could see where it was headed.
You were still working at Lowe's when we met.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could see that I was going to have to travel if I remained doing that, and I didn't want to do that. So, where I was working was right there close to home, in the paper mill there that was in the town that I grew up in, and they were using the actual college where I was going to school as a test shop. One of the companies that had one of the big contracts in there in the mill itself to do whatever, I can't remember what it was now, some kind of big construction job. They actually was using our shop as a test shop to hire welders for working in the mill. And I decided to take the test, and I took the test and passed it, so I just went to work, and it turned out that I ended up having to work nights, and I did not like that. But I would work all night, and when I got off the next morning, I'd drive straight to school and put in a little time at school. The instructor said, if you'll come just for a couple of hours, then you can go home and go to bed, because you got to go back to work, that next night. And it was a 7-day-a-week job, no days off, and it was no fun at night. I never could get used to trying to sleep in the day.
It was really good money.
Yeah, it was for the time, and for me still living at home and no bills, it was real good money. But It just wasn't for me. I wasn't ever going to travel all over the place to work. I just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, right. Okay, next question for Matt. Were you related to any Chapmans or Allens in Haywood County? Chapmans or Allens?
I don't know
Or anywhere. It doesn't have to
if
be.
I was. Now, there's a lot of people that my daddy and uncles and everybody know that we're related to that they never relayed to me, so I don't know. I mean, I do have relatives that I don't know anything about.
Aunt Wanda might know the answer to
She
that.
probably would. I mean, she's, you know, I just don't know why I never had this information, or maybe, I don't know. I know I am related to people that I don't know anything about. It might be related to you, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It'd be too late if you was, but I don't think so. Did our families, and I think this question was more specifically not just about, of course, in mine and Matt's lifetime, but in our parents' lifetime, like when they were growing up, and maybe even grandparents. But did they live, like, because we lived in like rural areas. I lived here and Matt lived in Haywood County, or my family lived here and Matt's family lived in Haywood County. Did they have access to radios? Like, was there a radio signal if they could have listened to the radio, and then did they listen to the radio?
I mean, we had one, but I don't know about, as far as Daddy and his parents and stuff, I assume they did. I don't know at what point they got electricity. I just don't know. But I know we always had it, and I never knew people that didn't have it in my lifetime, but no, I'm not sure about daddies and grandparents and all that.
You'd take it along with you, wouldn't you?
The
Radio.
Oh yeah, we had just a little AM radio that Daddy figured out how to rig up a battery system for, and we'd take it camping with us, and we could listen to the football game on Friday night. Way back in the mountains, we used to backpack some and trout fish, and that was why he took it, so we could listen to the local football game and see who won. It was pretty cool.
So for Pap's family and Granny's family, I think, but I know more about Pap's just because he talked about it more. They had a radio, and it was no power, like Matt was talking about. It was battery operated, and I don't want to tell the whole story, and because of one reason I'm not good at telling it, and I'll leave parts out. But I keep meaning to get Paul to tell it because it is a really great story about Pap getting a radio, but then he needed to find a battery that would fit it. And these were not batteries like the ones we have today, where maybe you would need like when I was growing up, my 8-track tape player, it took, like, what's the big ones, like, is that C's or D's? D's. It took those. This would have been like an even bigger battery, like, and you just connected to it or something.
Big square one?
Yeah, one of those big square ones. Anyway, it's a great story about Pap finally getting one, and then him figuring out he just really wanted, I guess he'd heard the radio other places, but he wanted one for them to have, and about him figuring out how to do it and getting it to work. It's a really great story. I need to get Paul to tell that. But they did have it, and Daddy especially was really influenced as far as musically by the things he heard on the radio, thinking about the Louvin brothers and the Delmore brothers and people like that. So they did have it, and I'm sure Granny's family did too, but I've just not heard her talk about it. But it was, if you were able to have the radio, you could have definitely got some kind of signal, in other words. Mm-hmm. Is there a place we've never been but would like to visit?
Youth.
You've been there before. You just like to go back to it.
I just don't remember it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always wanted to see the Yukon. Probably never will, because it's not likely I'm getting on an airplane, so I guess I'll just have to watch it on TV. But I think that would be somewhere that's literally untouched by people. I mean, that's what would interest me the most, just to see true wilderness.
Me and Matt, the one's never been very far away. I mean, been world travelers, in other words, at all. So we've not seen much, but and never been out of the country. I would love to see, like, out west, like Katie's trip she went on with Michael and Donna. I would love to do that. That would have been fun. And I love to see out, so thinking about the Grand Canyon or even just the canyons or whatever. Love to go to Montana and South Dakota, the prairies, and then I think I'd like to go to Maine or New Hampshire. We could go see Mark and Maddie.
I'd like to see Maine.
They've probably got 3 feet of snow right now.
Probably.
Anyway, so there is places I'd like to go. I'm like Matt, I don't know that I'd ever get there. I'm not afraid of flying. I've never flew, though, I should say that, so I'm sure I'd be nervous, but I'm not like Matt. I'm not saying I would never do it. But then there is an appeal, like whether it was up New England or out west, in driving, because then I just love to look out the window. I'd have to get somebody else to do the driving, though, so I could look out the window. But I just love to see everything, so look at people's houses and that kind of stuff. Have we ever grown green peas? We have, and we've grown them several times. For many, many years, one of the first things we planted each year was the little sugar snap peas. That may not be exactly what you're talking about, but we grew them, and we just stand out there and eat them. We never really cooked them or nothing. It was more just like a snack. We just eat them. I guess we might have stir-fried them a couple of times.
We had a hard time growing them because the rabbits would eat them.
Yeah, rabbits would find them and eat them.
They would go to each stalk. We had them where they'd climb up a trellis and they'd go to the bottom of each stalk where it come out of the ground and bite it in two and kill it. Every one of them.
Yeah, and we usually don't have trouble with rabbits, but I guess they just couldn't resist them. They really loved them. But we grew them, and we grew some other type of green peas too over the years. But the last, 3-4 years now, that was when we've really focused on growing some of those, like the Holstein pea, and I guess that's the only peas. That's the only. Oh, the Mississippi pink eye. How could I forget them? That's our favorite.
Right.
So growing those that we really, really love. Thinking about that, how many jars do we can each year? We don't ever keep a list. We probably should. But what would you think for green beans? Maybe depends on the year or two, but maybe 50 or 60 quarts of green beans.
Yeah, along those lines, and we just. As long as it'll keep making beans, we keep canning until it's over, and we don't ever count them. We just fill the shelves up and just kind of, just look at it as whether the shelf's full or if it's starting to get empty, we're getting low and that sort of thing. I don't ever count them because it's always different every year.
Yeah, and it's like even thinking about pickles and blackberry or jellies, blackberry jellies. What I was thinking about, that would differ too, because one year might be a really good year for blackberries, and then the next year's not, so you don't get to make as much jelly. The grapes, we've got a lot of grapes. I canned a lot of grape juice last year, which then I can turn into jelly, but I made a lot of grape jelly. But we've just never been people that keep track of it. We probably should, but we don't. I do kind of think in my mind about what we eat a lot of last year or through the winter and what we didn't. But most of the time, after all these years, we kind of know the things that we're going to eat, and that's what we what we put up. And I like to tell people, or this is the way me and Matt look at it, so maybe one year with thinking about the green beans, they just do fantastic, and we can more than we would eat in a normal year. Well, we just save them. They're just still on the shelves, the one that we didn't eat. But the next year, you may have a year in the garden where you just don't grow as many. Well, then thank goodness you still got those from last year and you can eat them. And green beans and canned stuff like that, in my opinion, can last several years. There's different opinions on that. You have to do the research and decide for yourself. But we've opened green beans before that was probably...
I've ate them 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, and they were okay.
They're just fine.
Yeah, they were fine.
And,
but that's, you got to make that up for yourself. But yeah, so that's kind of how we look at it. And some years it's not even to do with the garden, whether or not it does as good or not. There may be a year where we just eat a whole lot more than we usually did for some reason, and they run out faster. And then maybe we just didn't eat as much that year, that winter, for the opposite, for whatever reason. So we should put a number on it, but we don't ever do that. Granny used to have a contest with herself every year, how many green beans she canned, and she'd can over 100 quarts. And she would eat them too. I mean, she'd eat them. That was when she's feeding everybody. So on Sunday dinner, it might take 3 quarts to feed all of us, if not 4, if she wanted to have any leftovers. So, yeah. This year, will we plant enough potatoes in the big garden to store for winter? I don't know.
That is the plan.
Yet to be determined, and then determined on how they do, if they do good or not.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the room down there to do that. But it's just last year we just got started so late they didn't make, and it was kind of an afterthought to grow them, and the circumstances of when we could get in the garden and get them planted, and her mama being sick.
Yeah.
We just got them in so late that.
And then it was a dry year.
Yeah.
And they just didn't do
I mean,
good.
they made some, but
Yeah.
not like they have in years past. We used to grow potatoes down there, and 2 or 3 big long rows of them, and it did produce a whole lot of potatoes. But I'm going to have at least 1 long row again, if not 2.
So we hope to at least have more. We ate our potatoes that we grew up here and down there combination probably till early December or something, and then they were gone. So not that long. We didn't have that many, but so we want to. Our aim is to do more than that for sure. We get this question a lot, not just in the Q&A, but in other videos. It's where do you get the Cherokee purple tomato that we talk about? So we start ours from seed, and as far as seed, if you just put in your search bar there, whatever browser you use, Cherokee purple seed, it'll turn up several different places online that you can order the seed from, and you just, pick your favorite, pick which one appeals to you and order. If you're lucky enough to live somewhere where there's a nursery, like the wonderful Satterfields that we're not real close to, but close enough to go, they have, often those type nurseries will have heirloom varieties, and sometimes maybe you could even find them at some of the big box stores if they have like a heirloom kind of section of their plants, their starts that they're selling. But so I would first look though at the kind of the nurseries, like the family owned one, like the Satterfields. They have a lot of heirloom vegetables, so you could look there. But if you want to start them from seed, if you just search, like I said, you'll turn up tons of places that sell Cherokee purple seed, and it is our favorite tomato.
Oh yeah,
especially Vance. What kind of grow bags do we use and where to find them, and also the raised beds that we use. The grow bags are just fabric, and they're VVO, I guess is how you say that, VIVO Sun, VVO Sun. And as far as where to get them, you can find them at Amazon. You can find them, I think, directly from them. If you put that in your search bars, you could find them there. And then the raised beds that we use are Vego, VEGO, and you can get those, again, on Amazon, but you can buy directly from them. So if you just search for that, you can find them. And then where do we get our white sweet potatoes that we grew last year? We want to grow more of them this year. Again, if you just put that in your search bar, you can turn up a lot of different places that sell the slips online, and maybe if you're lucky, your local feed store or something like that might have them. And the variety that we grew was Bonita, and that's what we would grow again this year. We really liked them.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah, very good, very good. Seems like I was going to say something else about that. Oh, where we actually got ours was the Southern Exposure Seed. I get the name of it mixed up, but it's a seed company. Southern Exposure Seed Savers, I think, is the name of it, and that's where ours come from. And then, kind of going along with that, was there any pointers on putting raised beds on the hills like we've done? Issues with water coming off and affecting them or anything like that? I guess that might depend on your terrain.
Right. I mean,
but we could talk about how it is here.
Where we put ours, it's really steep, but we had some, and we had that cut off. The trees cut a couple of years ago. While the guys were here doing that, they had a track hoe. I don't know, did you video any of that?
Yeah, I did. I could link to it in the description below.
And we just had them dig off some little shelves on the steep part of that bank, just level off some places where we could put those. And as far as the drainage goes, number one, that bank's nothing but a rock. It's just millions of little rocks that are pretty well embedded into the bank. It's like I forget what the sign. I think it's like decomposed rock. It's called, and it's just pretty solid, and so it don't erode. But then there's enough dirt around it to where there's some low growth that's always there, And we never do have, I mean, actual what you could see runoff coming off of it. Never have had, and
no.
it's never been a problem for the beds. I mean, it's just always, I guess the rainwater, even for hard rain, it just soaks up somehow or another.
Yeah.
We've never had any runoff or had any problems.
When a lot of people, when we had it cut, was, you know, asked that, aren't you afraid now there's going to be runoff? But all the roots, like to the, and it's growing back. We've lived here long enough to know we've cut it back lots of times over the years, and then it grows back. And when we cut it back, the roots and stuff are still under the earth, or, you know, still there. So like thinking about the little saplings and the little laurels and ivies, they just come back out. They just, you know, come back out at the ground there where the roots are still in there. So like Matt said, we've never had that problem. When we very, very first had it done, had it graded, and when we first moved in, and then again when we had it graded years later to make more room, what happened the first year or two, because there was nothing on it then, because it had been pushed and, you know, with the bulldozer or whatever, was wasn't really washing like Matt said, but it was any rocks that were loose. Once, especially during cold weather, it would freezing and unthaw, and they would roll down. So around the whole edge, there would just be like little rocks, you know, little ones, maybe that big, maybe that big. So for many years, both times, we just go through there every once in a while with a wheelbarrow and throw them in and take them and discard them. But then once it all settled and stuff started growing back, that don't happen as much.
Not near as much.
Not like
anymore.
it did in those days. Kind of going along with that too was another question, was the trees that we cut at the creek. So it was the same thing. People wanted to know, were we not afraid that now that bank of the creek would erode because the trees are gone?
No. It's such a low bank that it's not going to cause any trouble that I can see. And then by May or June, there'll already be shoots and stuff growing up there, and to take it the place of what we cut anyway. My mama was always worried about that around her house, and I would try to explain to her, and she just wouldn't have it. I mean, she thought that the whole world was going to cave in around it, and the yard was going to disappear. But you know, it don't work that way that fast. It just does not. And by the time any damage could have been done, there will be something grown back to take the place of what you just cut. In other words, so now we're not worried about it. And I don't care that there's stuff growing there, but we need to keep it down at such a level to where it's not shading the garden.
Yeah, shade the garden.
We've still got 2 or 3 more trees that need to be cut down there, and I'm going to cut them just first chance I get. But no, it just don't erode that way. Number one, the place is so rocky. The creek bed itself is just bedrock, and then there's so many rocks along the bank where we did just cut the trees that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if it was a 1,000-year flood come through there, maybe.
Right.
But then you got more problems in the creek at that
you got
point.
more than the creek, yeah. And that may be, you know, you may live in a place where you do have erosion. Maybe it's a different type of soil or terrain or whatever. That's the one amazing, there's lots of amazing things about living where we do. We really love it here in the mountains of southern Appalachia. But one of the most amazing things is the growth. You do have to keep it beat back, or it would just take over your house.
Yeah.
And it's not just kudzu, not just, you know, that's like the joke, that's the kudzu's the plant that ate the South. Definitely that would happen too, but even just growth, just in 1 year's growth, if you pay attention to it, it's unbelievable. And it happens every year. So in the place that we live, that's just not a concern because of like Matt said, those trees he cut down, there'll be saplings come up all the way down through there. And
not only that, there'll be other weeds and stuff grow up, and you're letting the sunlight touch where it's not touched before on that bank next to the water, and there'll be all manner of stuff grow up.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. And then too, because we have been so fortunate to live in the same place, me basically my whole life, just when I left to go find me a husband and bring him back. I've been able to see that. Like I can barely remember. I need Steve to give me more information about that. My older brother Steve, he's 5 years older than me, so he can remember more than me. But I can barely remember what that looked like when there wasn't a garden there. And then, of course, Pap had to clear it all out. And then over the years, those trees that Matt cut that was shading the garden, that's happened, and Pap had to trim them back. When Matt, after he was part of our family, is usually you cutting them, you and Pap both together. So we know by experience that it's been cut like that before, and that it didn't wash.
And by the end of May, you'll literally have to take a weed eater down there and cut a trail to get to the creek.
Yeah. It was really interesting. Matt was talking about I'm straying from our questions, but I got to share this. Matt was talking about how sunlight would hit that area and there'd be new growth of stuff that wasn't growing there last year because the seeds are just laying dormant in there. When we had Thomas and his wonderful crew cut all that stuff down at the big garden last year, so that would have been the first year that, all those trees had been gone. What amazed me the most was, and I really didn't notice it when it was happening until later in the fall, and I would be outside up here working, and everywhere I seen milkweed flowing around. Sometimes it looked like it was snowing. Of course, it wasn't. I knew what it was, but I was thinking, I've never seen it like that. But what I had really not paid attention to, we always have some growing on our bank out through here, and there's a little, you'll see that every once in a while, but not to like it's just everywhere in the sky and just falling everywhere. Well, then I realized it was because everywhere they cut those trees, so that big long swath around the curve of the garden all the way out to Corey and Austin's, it was just a forest of milkweed.
It's head high.
Yeah, it wasn't there the year before. No. But it was that all those trees were gone and the sunshine could hit, just right, and they could, so it was really amazing. Anyway, okay, how do we grow carrots? We tried to grow carrots for years until I finally just quit and thought, I just can't grow carrots. And then probably, 3 or 4 years ago, I watched a video, and I'm sorry I can't remember who it was, but talked about the problem that most people have is they don't plant them early enough. And there's the tricks of putting a board over the seeds or cardboard or something like that. But this person said you just need to plant them earlier. And so I thought, I'll just try it again. And we planted them, like I'm thinking early, like in February, and we grew carrots. And we've done it like that every year since then, and we grow carrots now. So for us, the trick was planting them early, which this is February, so I got to get on the carrots.
Get busy.
I better get on the carrots. Are we going to visit Quincy? That kind of goes along with this. Quincy is the Satterfields, Betty and Pat's little grandson, and if you've not seen him in our videos, I'll link to some of them. He is a delight.
That's a fine boy right there.
He is a delight, yes. And he's just a dear and so knowledgeable. He's usually the one that takes me around to all the nurseries. He knows about everything. I'm so impressed with him.
He knows more about plants than we do.
Oh, he does. He's great. Yeah. And he's just the best. And the very first time we ever met Quincy was me and Corey. First time we went over there and we met him. And after that, I told Corey, I said, of course, this was, I don't know, was her and Austin even married? I have to look back in my videos to see if they were married yet or, but anyway, it was definitely before Ira or Woodrow was ever thought about. And I told Corey on the way home, I said, Corey, I hate to even say this, but I'm going to tell you this. Someday, if you give me kids, give me a Quincy. That's what I said. And then about makes me tear up, but now I've got Woodrow and Ira, and I hope they follow in Quincy's footsteps because he's amazing. So, but I do, yes, I plan to go to visit Quincy and Betty and Pat. We love them. They're like family. They really are like family. Will we have Granny a big birthday party? We will. It's coming up. March 6th is her birthday. I have to look at the calendar and then converse with all the other family to see what day we can do it. But we will have her birthday party, yes. Did we both ride horses when we were young? You can tell your stuff first. Do you remember the first one you rode or anything?
No, the first one I was ever on, I guess, would have been my grandpa's mule. And I would have been, I wasn't old enough to ride it. Daddy would take me up there and set me up on it, and I would beg to go see the mule, and they'd let me sit on it. It's a big old work mule. Coincidentally, that's what Katie's named after, Kate the Mule. And all these years later, it's quite befitting.
Yeah.
It ain't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, and then later on, at some point, I don't remember I mean, there was a time we didn't have, when I was real little, we didn't have any horses, but when I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10, somewhere along there, Daddy got into the horse riding craze, and then for quite a few years up into my 20s, I guess, we had them and rode them quite a bit, and rode them all summer long, go camping, fishing, riding horses.
Lots of memories.
Oh yeah, gosh yeah, lots of them, a lot of fun times. Especially going back in the mountains and camping and catching fish.
When Matt and I dated, we deer hunted. Well, you did that, but we rode horses. Some of my family that introduced me to Matt, they were into horses too, so they had horses. So probably the first time we ever, well, not the first time we ever met, but shortly thereafter we went on a trip and we rode horses at Yellow Creek or somewhere.
Yeah, it would have
Shining
been
Rock, I don't know, somewhere.
Just within
Yeah.
a week or 2 or 3 probably, we was riding horses.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, I liked horses, and of course as I got older, I didn't think much about it when I was a girl, young girl, but when I got older, like in teenage years and stuff, I liked horses. Probably truthfully, I liked the ideal of a cowboy more than the horse. But I used to beg Daddy if I could get a horse, could I have a horse? Well, it wasn't that he didn't want me to have one. There just was no, I just didn't know enough about horses. It wasn't like getting a pet cat or a dog or something. You needed a pasture, you needed a place to take care of them, for them to get out of the weather, all the things, horse is a big animal. And we didn't have none of that. There was nowhere here in Wilson Holler we could have had that at all. And but it didn't deter me from begging and talking about it all the time. And finally he told me one day, and I can just see him too saying it with this little twinkle in his eye. I guess he'd had enough of me talking about a horse. He said, "Tipper, you know what? You can have a horse when you go up the creek and you turn over every rock up there that you can find, and you find a horse. That's when you can have one." And that was that. That was the last he's going to entertain about hearing about the horse. It was funny. Is there something I cooked and Matt just couldn't eat it? If I ever cooked something that you just couldn't eat?
No. No.
You may be being generous there.
I don't recall anything that you've ever cooked that I couldn't eat. I've cooked stuff myself that I couldn't eat, but I'll eat about anything, and I can eat stuff I don't even like, for the most part. But everything that you've ever cooked, I've always liked.
Well, you're very kind. There's certainly been stuff that I made before, like a new recipe, whether it was a dessert or a main dish or something, that I thought, it wasn't that it was terrible, but it was just, it's not as good as something I already make, so I probably will never make that again. That's happened lots of times. That probably happens with lots of people, though. If you cook from scratch and you want to try new things, there's some stuff you try and you're like, that'll be part of my, my menu or whatever you want to say for the rest of my life. And then there's other stuff you're like, I'll probably never make that again. It just wasn't worth the effort. So there's certainly been stuff like that. The other day I made something I do make a lot, which is pizza. I have a video about making pizza, if you didn't see how I make pizza. And I usually love my pizza, but I just could not eat it. I thought it was terrible, and Matt didn't. I just thought it was horrible. I don't know if I put too much salt in the dough, if I put too much, got it too stiff. I don't know. I just thought I could barely eat it. I thought it was so bad. And I just kept telling Matt I was sorry, it wasn't no good. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought it was fine. I ate it. We've eaten stuff that I have eaten stuff I didn't really want to eat out of necessity back when we were first married, just because of money.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it was bad. It was just stuff I didn't want.
That's all we had. Yeah.
That's all we had.
Yeah. And sometimes you might eat out or eat somewhere at somebody's house or get something on your plate at the buffet line or something at the decoration day that you don't care for.
Right.
But, yeah. Well, thank you.
I'm like a stray dog. You throw it down in front of me and I'll eat it.
That's true. Matt is easy to please. Okay, we'll end on this one. I thought this was a really interesting one, so thank you for asking it. would I have dated Matt if I had met him in high school?
Uh-oh.
Because you think about change. You know, you change a lot thinking about when you're in high school, and then where you're at today. I think most people would agree that I know for me personally, I just look at life totally different than I did then. My whole mindset. There's parts of me that maybe is the same, but I'm definitely not that person. Of course, you have to mature and grow up and become an adult and all that. So I thought that was really, really great question. But for me, yes, I would have still dated Matt because I would have been attracted to him too. He was very handsome. He was like the cowboy that I was looking for, kind of rough around the edges and all that. But we had so much in common, even from the very beginning of us meeting. We just talked about everything. We just somehow really connected. Really talked, and we had. It's funny, our lives were not really the same because of just our upbringing, but yet there were so many similarities that kind of crossed over. I guess core values, maybe the core values is it, because Matt was not raised exactly like I was.
No, just tired dab rougher.
Yeah, just a little bit rougher.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I would have definitely dated Matt, and I don't know if he'd have dated me or not. I should have reversed the question.
Oh yeah.
Would you?
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have been going for the cheerleader or whatever?
No. That's I mean, I guess some people do, but that's kind of in my mind, kind of a misnomer about guys that's what they go after. That never interested me at all. I can look at that and see trouble.
Not to say all.
Not all of them, but
no, you don't want to say that.
But for my, I'm not compatible with those kinds.
Here's a fun fact, and I don't even know if you knew this. Did you know that I tried to be a cheerleader?
No.
In high school, I tried out. I did not make it. I did not make it.
Did you really want to be, or was you just trying to fit in?
I think I really wanted to be, and I can't remember who did it with me. Maybe it was Tracy. I don't remember who my friends were that did it with me, but none of us were cheerleaders. Might have been Tracy. Might have even been Pam. I can't remember, but I think Pam would have probably got on, so maybe it was Tracy.
Yeah.
But we did not become cheerleaders. Anyway.
Rah-rah-ree, kick 'em in the knee.
I've heard Papa say that one. Well, we hope that you enjoyed finding out more about us. There's more questions, so if we didn't answer yours today, we'll try to get it in the next one. We'll do another one of these in a week or so or something like that. And if you've got additional questions, feel free to leave them on this video. We're always glad when you stop by to visit with us and help us celebrate Appalachia.